I, Vincent, Queen of Darkness, cast Phantom Banshee through the Rune Gate.
I'm over here. I'm not going to block and just let all my ward shit blow up. Ward is tight.
All right, I got an oldie but goodie for you. We're going to block with Springboard Somersault. From a hand, unfortunately, though, because I drew it at a weird time. For 2. Gotcha.
Nice. Okay, don't worry, everybody. It's me, Taylor. I'm back. I went through the Rune Gate, saw some shit, and we're going to talk about that shit we saw. Welcome to the reaction step.
Nice. You see a lot of stuff through that blindfold?
What blindfold? I don't know what you're talking about.
Gate?
All I saw was just the shadowy blackness of Irathil. I think is probably where it's from. I don't know.
Irathil, is that what we're going with?
I don't know, right? Isn't that what it is?
Your final answer?
It's got to be like Irathel or something.
Okay,
welcome
perfect.
to the reaction step, everyone. Where we debate mostly phonetics, but also some other things.
And today we'll be debating if these Dusk Till Dawn spoilers are hype enough for us. Or good. Dude, hit the sound. We've got it in there now.
Oh, yeah. Soundboard.
Did that record?
Hell yeah.
Hopefully it recorded, or else we look real dumb.
If not, you got to put it in post. Thank you both for being here. Thanks, everybody. The audio listeners, there was a visual gag to start this whole episode. So if you're listening in the podcast feed, go over to YouTube, hit thumbs up, say in the comments, best visual gag I've ever seen on a Flesh and Blood video.
Yeah.
You all are the best.
We should have had like a trigger warning for all the self-harm that happened in it, but you know.
Oh, right.
That's true.
That's just the new theme for, you know, you thought Shadow Runeblades were already moody. Now they hurt themselves. and then you feel bad, so you let them win.
So now that it was totally worth pulling your car over and loading YouTube instead of Spotify, let's get into it.
So yeah, Dusk Till Dawn. When is it coming out? Somebody help me out here. July, right?
14th.
Yeah. Because spoiler season.
I totally made that up. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, you said it with such confidence. I believed you.
That's how you do it when you do that.
Also, because
calls you.
Because sometimes you have secret personal notes that for some reason you don't share with us to help us all be on the same page. So I just figured it was from those.
Totally. It's just to counter the whole secret trivia game, you know?
It actually is July 14th. So, you know, you played yourself by admitting that you made
it really?
up. Yeah.
What?
Big brain.
That's what it says.
It's a big brain play.
It says on the website.
It was like a 1 in 90 odds or something. Anyway.
Well, you somehow had that in your brain somewhere.
Apparently.
It was a blind azalea and you hit off the blind azalea. Great job.
Dominated.
I did. My pitch stacking genius just caught back up to it.
Hell yeah. Good job. Dude, killing it. All right. We got a lot of spoilers way before spoiler season, as they like to do. I think the first couple came out there at the Pro Tour. And I think the first one is, of course, everyone's favorite hero is back. It's Prism 2, Advent of Thorns.
Hooray. Hope you got
Prism
enough action
2,
points.
more Prism.
The Electric Boogaloo Prism. Actually, well, all right, we don't have the other card. There's the young hero, Advent of Thrones. Sorry, I said Thorns.
Right.
And then there's the new adult hero whose name was... Fuck, why didn't I write it down? It's over here.
You could do a wipe right here as you whoosh into when you find the information.
Prism, Awakener of Soul. So...
Is soul spelled S-O-L?
That's right, it is.
Solana? Okay.
That's
I
right.
wonder if in designing this hero if Prism of Soul or whatever, the adult, was like unplayable in Blitz, or Prism Advent of Thrones was too powerful in CC, or what was going on there? You know what I mean? Like, why did they design two separate heroes?
I have an answer for you instantly. At instant speed, it's because Prism Regos is still playable.
In Blitz?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so?
Well, you can't have Prism and Prism. You got to have Prism, different name Prism.
Yeah,
I mean, they both have different names than OG Prism.
Yeah, totally. Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
but from Blitz, the way they always do it though is that Blitz, young heroes, and adult versions always have different names. And since this is an original hero that had just Prism, and then Prism, I don't even remember what her old name used to be. Something
Shaper
of Light. Yeah. So that they can't have another new Prism, and then they can't have two heroes with the same name that have different card. They can't have it for the young and the old. So I'm pretty sure it'll be the same hero power, but it's just a different name.
Separate names.
To differentiate the young and the old hero. Unless they didn't, it's just a totally different hero. We'll see.
I don't know.
Prism Sculptor of Arclight.
I'll let it go.
Sculptor.
I mean, yeah, you're right. We don't know until we know. Also, Sculptor of Arclight. That's what it is.
Isaac, you just told us to be very confident about things we don't know and prove that it works 100% of the time. So
it sucks when somebody actually calls you, though.
Look, until we're wrong, we're not wrong. So
yeah. And there's other Blitz heroes. Like, there is a precedent for them to have names. Benji,
when they're
Piercing Wind.
Yeah. But if it's the same as the adult hero, in all of time, it has been their name is the Blitz hero, and then the name with the title is the adult hero.
Totally. And you are correct. We're in uncharted waters right now.
Yeah. It's the first hero that's come back from the living legend. They were like, we can't get rid of Prism because everybody loves Prism. So, but Chain, they were like, we shouldn't bring Chain back because people will literally vomit on their card collections.
They're already upset when they saw Shadow Rune Blade.
Well, we'll get into that later, but let's talk about Little Miss Advent of Thrones here. Coming in at 16 health. Really
a little miss.
She's probably busted, so they needed to
totally.
They needed to rein her back a little bit. She's still one whole life stronger than Kano, so Kano is by far the strongest hero in the entire set based on mechanics of his design. But Advent of Thrones could be pretty good. But that's all we got. That's all we know about her is that she has a name and she's coming back, and there's also an adult version. So I think it's really, I don't know what to say about it other than maybe we talk about angels.
Yeah, I mean, we can let's talk about her potential hero powers or like the role she plays after we go over the rest of the cards.
That's true. We have a weapon
those are
too,
all,
yeah.
Those are all relevant.
All
right,
so
okay.
Go ahead.
All of us at once. No. 1, 2, 3.
I think that this is a good weapon. No one went. Damn.
Colin got it.
Luminaris Celestial Fury. Now, two things. We're also bringing back Luminaris, and we're calling it Celestial Fury, which I have issues with both of these things because I feel like, I think it's lame and boring and also hilarious at the same time. Like, so when you read the ability, so once per turn instant, pay 2, target angel attack or attack action card with Herald in its name gets Go Again, that is a little bit mopier than OG Luminaris, but this one has a sicker name, Celestial Fury, which is just kind of like in line with like action movie sequels. You know what I mean? Like Mission Impossible, Death Till We Part Code.
Just wait till we
mission.
get like the fourth
You know?
iteration, and it's gonna be like Luminaris, Fury 4, Celestial something.
Or like
It's gonna be like
Destroyer of Universes.
it's gonna be like the Fast and
Star
Furious,
Slayer, angry.
where they can't
Yeah.
like pick a scheme and they just keep changing how it works every time. It's gonna be like Luminaris, Celestial Fury, like fucking Welcome to Boomtown or something. It'll be like it's a shotgun now and it just does damage and doesn't interact with anything else.
Okay, so then my second point, my sub points, because a lot of Prism stuff is subheading stuff. My sub points to my original points are that I do like this ability. It's much more toned down than original Luminaris, which was a blanket statement, and we're also getting a scepter that kind of does something, right? So like the other two illusionist weapons are just like static extra text boxes, and this one is actually like a thing that does a thing. You know what I mean? Like you never pick up Luminaris and move it on the playing field because it just has a static ability. Same thing with Sand Scour. Storm of Sandakai. Why don't we know the names of anything today?
Sand Scour Dragons.
Yeah, totally. I really like both of those design elements.
Yeah, so there's a few things about this weapon that are kind of interesting. First of all, angels do not have like the dragon Go Again ability is inherent in Dromai's hero ability. And we didn't know Prism's ability yet. But here we learn that angels do not inherently have Go Again. So having multiple angels out on the field does not really grant you any like if you have 3 angels, the most you can do is pay 2 and swing with 2 of them, right? I mean the like ward ability still works or whatever, but I thought that was pretty interesting. So your ability to like overwhelm your opponents with board state behaves differently than I figured it would. Also, I think the play with Phantasmal Footsteps is pretty interesting, right? So if you swing like a Wartune Herald and your opponent pops it, you can still pay 1 to get an action point, right? So that's essentially giving it Go Again as well. Or if they, don't pop it or just block it, you can pay 2 to give it Go Again. However, this becomes like pretty expensive if you're especially the heralds that cost 2, and then it costs 2 to give them Go Again, and then it costs whatever to swing the next thing, and you're maybe coming in for like 12 or whatever, 14 damage, which is fine, but it just becomes a little bit more tedious and difficult. It's not like Tunic, Wartune Herald for 7, Go Again off 1 card anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like you have to pitch a blue to play it and give it Go Again and have your Tunic up for when it gets popped. You know what I mean?
Well, you could just spend 1 of those to give it, or get your action point back. But yeah, I'm also wondering like, well, anyway, let's talk about the rest of the cards first. Or Colin, do you want to talk about this weapon?
Does Phantasmal Footstep work on angels? No.
I don't think so. It doesn't work on dragons.
Yeah, because they don't have Phantasm.
They do.
They do.
They do?
They do. Because the ash under
But
them
it's
is some Phantasm.
No, I meant the angels.
Phantasmal Footsteps says no, they have ward. Says
Yep.
attack action card. So that's why dragons don't
Right.
work, is because
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
allies.
Yeah. So
Angels do not have Phantasm.
yeah. So
They have ward.
it is, yeah. So there is just an interesting play, and I'm sure that we're going to get more angels. Right now, all we have is Soraya, Archangel of Knowledge, and now we have Bologna, Archangel of War, which both also cost 2 to attack. So it's pretty expensive with this. I'm curious. I mean, I feel like haven't seen that many majestic weapons lately, which is probably a good thing. So I would assume this is gonna. I guess it's not a token because it's coming out in a expansion set, so it's probably gonna be like a rare. So it could be a majestic, maybe just because it's the draftable set rules don't really apply. But yeah, it just leads me to believe that this Prism cares about angels and less about spectral shields, although looking at Soraya, she requires a spectral shield to be transformed into herself, to be invoked, I guess. It would be the correct nomenclature. Yeah, it's invoke. So yeah, I guess, angels are the new heralds, but heralds are also okay because you can pay 2 to give them go again. It just makes me think that God, what is that one cost herald? Man, I'm a bad Prism player. Wartune, yeah. Wartune herald. You just play 9 Wartune heralds and a bunch of angels, and that'll be it. So you can pitch blue and do both.
Sounds about right.
So it's interesting. It really depends what her hero ability does. I'm curious how or if it will interact with the soul. I would assume it does, just because that's like the light, talent seems to be, fully about interacting with the soul. So we'll have to see what else we get, but it's interesting, the choice that they were just like, we're just going to redo Prism in a different way. And I'm curious if they thought of it as like an opportunity to kind of like, reconfigure how the Light Illusionist plays, or if they were just like, it's a fan favorite, so we're just going to, do some fan service, which is not a bad choice. People like Prism. It does let her specializations continue, right?
Yeah, which was a surprise to me. I assumed it would be a new hero, so those specializations would be out, but it was the opposite.
Yeah, so Arclight Sentinel is back. You have to pay 6 and then 4 to attack on your turn twice, so it's gonna be great.
Questions we had about the new Prism, though, were like how she would use auras and how she would use heralds, right? And the weapons kind of answered the question about heralds, but we have yet to see if auras will play any part in her, or if they're kind of specifically moved away from that, like with Dromai as an illusionist, because of the unpopularity of Spectra.
Yeah. So like when you read, this is my potential theories for this hero power, which ties into Bologna Archangel. So when she attacks, you get to banish a card from your soul. And if you do, you put a +1 counter on each angel you control. I'm wondering if there's like a soul threshold that she has to reach. Like once you have 3 cards in soul, your angel attacks are free, or something like that. So that you could, because that's like too much to ask is like, is to have your, and we're assuming, we don't know what the invoke is for Bologna, but if you assume that like they like to do that stuff where like, who is it? Tumultai costs 5, attacks for 5, and has 5 health, right? So like Bologna
And Surya,
has
the same.
Yeah. She has 4 attack, 4 health, and is probably going to cost 4. So then you're looking at 6 resources just to do 4 damage. But then it also has ward 4. So then you're like, you do all of this investment for then it just to like, I guess, block 4 damage, which is pretty rad. But it could only block 1 damage if it's like a Kodachi, blah, 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 etc. So like you have to have some sort of payoff for all of this investment you're going to have that then also potentially like goes away very easily, you know, and you won't, and maybe this is the thing though, is maybe we won't have like a illusionist that is kind of swarming the board. But something like that, where their power based on a certain condition you meet makes your life easier in some way, is kind of my guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, well, so first of all, you have Phantasmal Footsteps to deal with the first Kodachi, right? And assuming you have other resource sinks on their turn, as Prism did, that could be an effective defense. Also, we have, I mean, it's hard to say because we have yet to see how these angels interact and how they behave, but they do the same thing kind of that dragons do, right? Like when you play one out, you get to attack for 4, but then it also blocks for 4 when you need it to. So it's instantly, like Bellona has in theory 8 value if you use her optimally. If you get to attack with her twice, then it goes up to 12, et cetera, et cetera. So like well worth the cost pretty soon. Mm-hmm. And I guess like the biggest thing that I was thinking about is your opponent cannot directly interact with these allies, right? Like they can't attack Spectra. They can't attack their health like with dragons. Or can they attack their health?
I think they can. I think if you have something that targets,
also attack their health.
I think you can target them because they have health. So
okay,
I think it's like dragons too. But
I was like, this is pretty wild. You like have to push through damage on the hero. But no, you can do either.
Yeah.
I see. Sorry, I was wrong.
No, I mean, I think Ward is going to be the next big headache for everyone who plays against New Prism is how does it interact? How does it interact with things like Vambrace and Malign and things that prevent prevention? And, you know, there's going to be some weird stuff. So
I actually find that to be much more intuitive.
It is, but I think it's just like we haven't had a lot of it yet. And they've done, I think there's just been more like prevention and you know, the prevention of like on the Vambrace is just like,
yeah,
I think it just adds a wrinkle to it that I think if you think it out, it makes sense. Like, you know, I was just asking if Vambrace would do the same thing that Malign would do, where it would just break everything. But then at the same time, it seems like, I don't know. I feel like they might have to address that, because if you just play one attack and it busts everything that has ward because it prevents prevention, like that seems busted.
Yeah, that's my least favorite thing in like all of these spoilers so far.
Yeah.
Right.
No
it's
way.
like the unblockable damage interaction with the ward. It's like stupid, like Murkmire Grappler or whatever, just pops every piece of ward, or, you know.
It's super is not stupid. And the reason why is because now you have common cards that you can have multiple in your deck that force your opponent to interact with you. So Malign just says it can't be prevented, not that it can't be blocked. So you can still block with a card from hand and it won't pop all of your stuff. So the way, for the listeners out there, the way Malign works is it says its damage cannot be prevented. So ward is a prevention effect. So each piece of ward would check on Malign's damage being dealt, and then it can't be prevented, but it's still like, to check, it still has to break to work. So it breaks all of them. So if you have ward 4 times on 4 different cards, all of those would pop. But Malign only comes in for 3. So then you're telling your opponent, like, nope, I know you have this impenetrable wall of bullshit in front of me, but this little thing is going to require you to respect it. So you have to block with something, or else you're going to lose all of your investment, you know, which I think is really, really important, because then you could just keep building walls of ward, and then that's the game. There's no way to force your opponent to kind of interact with you in that way. So I think it's actually really going to be helpful.
Well, I think building walls of ward is pretty difficult because you have to block all incoming damage and pay 4 for Bologna as a card also. You know what I mean? Like, that seems pretty difficult in of itself. Also, I was thinking more along the lines of like, you know, a Katsu running Vam Braces or something like that, where it's just like going to be impossible for you to like block all of their damage, they can trigger the unpreventable part like anytime it's relevant. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a little trickier. So ward 4, and then if you Vam Braces, it only will knock ward 4 down to ward 3, basically. So it only prevents one piece of that prevention. That makes sense? So you'd still have to be like attacking specifically with like a breakpoint, and then have the resource floating for Vam Braces and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So like you can block with like a little piece of armor and your ward 4, and they can Vam Braces it, and it gets both of those. You know what I mean?
Illusionist doesn't have any armor.
Case in point,
They got shoes.
It's complicated, but it should be interesting. I think, you know, it definitely feels like Prism is going to be more like Dromai, where there's like a board state of allies rather than just a board state of auras. But I am curious to see what her old auras can do and how they can interact with this new build. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm not sure if I'm hyped yet on any of that, to be honest, as someone, you know, who did like old school Prism. But I'm very curious to see what her hero ability is, how it interacts with spectral shields or the soul, or how any of that stuff's gonna work, and like where it's all gonna play out. But you know, here we are. We got angels now. They're like dragons, but more yellow.
Yeah. I guess I'm just apprehensive because I have like, as a Dromai player, I hate the Dromai Katsu matchup. It's like pretty unfun, and like one of those 90-10s you hope are not designed in the game, you know, like Kano into Prism or whatever. So I'm just the whole ward mechanic and the way she works and all this, I'm just hoping that there's like the matchup spread has been considered when designing these cards, you know what I mean? So that she has like not necessarily a favorable matchup, but like some sort of game plan into decks that like you know, can easily run unpreventable damage, or like, you know, have Kodachis, for example, or, you know, things like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
unlikely.
Well, I think it'll be.
I think that's lame. You know,
I mean, it is interesting though that it's like this double-sided thing. Like you can go try to clear the board state by attacking the allies directly, like, you know, you normally do with against Dromai. With the added kind of like difference being that you can't pop them when they attack. But then it's like, or do you want to try to push damage at them to tax their hand and try to prevent, you know, or, you know, either get around their blocking to trigger the ward activations to, you know, blow up stuff. So I think it will end up being interesting on both sides, because it will present interesting questions of how do I manage my allies, and how do I manage the angel, you know, the army of angels being constructed in front of me.
Yeah.
The new ward equipment, like the kimono and stuff, make a lot more sense now. Since they're like kind of like armor, right? Like you can use it to like block a Kodachi or whatever in order to protect something else important.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kimono where you get a resource when ward things pop is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Use it on footsteps.
Exactly. To block one.
Use it on Oasis. I don't know.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm curious what you can use it on on your opponent's turn that is valuable in that case. But we will see.
That was a huge component of Prism as having resource sinks on the opponent's turn. So cards like Ironhide equipment or like Soul Shield or things that cost resources were easy to use in Prism because of her Soul Shield or her Spectral Shield generation and auras being instants, et cetera, et cetera.
Totally. Should we jump into the Shadow Realm?
Let's do it.
Yeah, I love it.
I did want to say, hold on.
Classic.
I did want to say,
Classic.
I think that.
Let me roll it back. I already popped it.
Some of the auras are still quite powerful, right? Like Parable of Humility is an extremely powerful effect, even if you can't attack with it. And the fact that it has Spectra and ends your opponent's turn when it's popped is still a pretty taxing way to have to deal with it, right? I mean, not if you have like a Kadachi, but it is if you're like Lexi, for example, or like, I guess Guardian cares less about it. But anyway, I think that some of these auras will see play or maybe sideboard play because some of their effects are still like astoundingly powerful. Or like the blue aura that gives your first illusionist attack every turn +2. Things like this are like way above rate if you get them out early and your opponent doesn't deal with them. And then if they do, it buys you breathing room. So I'm interested to see like how those will be incorporated.
Totally.
Yeah, and it's cool. You bring up a good point that it puts those auras in a cooler place. Because then you, like you said, you have to make that decision like, man, do I just go face or is this Parable really that hamstringing, like having permanent frailty tokens, is a pretty big deal, and as well as like, not having Phantasm on your first attacks as well and stuff. But in fact, like that like that's how it feels in Dromai. Like, that's like a thing I got to take care of, but at least it's not attacking me, Yeah. So we might see some of that happen as well, which I think is a healthier place for those cards to be in terms of like play experience is what I mean,
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Now let's take it to the dark place.
All right.
We got
I'm ready now.
Vincent.
Take me there.
Vincent.
Vincent.
Vincent, yes. Vincent, our new Shadow Runeblade hero. We've only seen the young, but we're all assuming we're also getting the old version. Classic 20 health, 4 intellect. That's all we got. She looks ripped and cool, if not a little bit, self-harmy. Got a lot of piercings going on, and say non-traditional piercings.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. I put it as my like background on my fold.
Nice.
The young hero art, which is super cool. We, technically, so on the poster for the armory kits is what I'm assuming is her hero art, which it's also by Federico Musetti. So I'm assuming it's the same. And what a transformation they go through, kind of a reverse Iron Maiden armor situation with some like gigantic spiky pauldrons and apparently some sort of spider webs in her coming from her mouth to her pauldrons. So I don't know what that's about. It's definitely not the evolution I thought was going to happen from her young hero art to her old hero art for her to turn into like a tank.
She got spider mouth, man. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know when you get old and you get spider mouth?
So if that's an indication of the tanky ability or playstyle she may have, I don't know. Or it just is cool artwork.
I love that take. I thought it was just art for a different card. So I love that you think it's the adult hero and that it's indicative of like a tanky, a strong hero. You know?
Thank you.
It's pretty
Well,
cool.
normally the Armory event posters are of the adult hero key art. You know, like I have an Icelander one like hanging right there. So yes, that's what I'm pretty.
Right there.
That's right. That's right. What? It's over there.
It's right over there.
Again, for you audio listeners, another visual gag.
Pull over again. Stop the car.
We're around 30 something minutes in, you'll find it. Yeah, I hadn't thought too much about it until you started saying it, but I just assumed it was also her adult art, but it's weird because she looks older in the young art, just based off, I don't know. It just looks like a younger person. And just kind of like thinking about like other younger heroes, like there's usually something like, I don't know, more epic about them as an adult, and as a younger one, they kind of, I guess the whole Iron Maiden thing is pretty epic, but I don't like her young art. She's like standing there. She's like got knives stabbing through her arms. She's blindfolded. She's got these dope shoulder pads that look like they could also hurt you, and just shredded abs.
Yeah, that's like adult hero level blood magic.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't look like she's just starting out.
Yeah.
Those knives all the way.
I know. Compared to Chain, where he's in like the most ridiculous robe,
Yeah.
addressing his congregation, like,
Yeah.
I mean, both of Chain's outfits are ridiculous. So I guess that's just part of his personality.
Chain looks like oh god, what's his name from Harry Potter?
Snape?
He looks like Snape. Yeah, he's just like mopey, like, you know, greasy haired, ill-fitting robe, and he's just like,
Yeah.
and then he turns into hair metal, you know.
Yeah. Found a way to express himself.
Chainmaster. That's right. He found himself there in the darkness.
Like Vincent's very Dark Souls to me.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
It's like very cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that's it for that. I guess we should check out this new flail we got. New Shadow Runeblade weapon, Flail of Agony, one-handed. And it's a specialization for all you Shiana stands. Once per turn action, pay a health to attack. When this hits, create a rune chant token. No go again. So a lot there to process. I don't even know where to begin.
Well, first, another flail, right? So now we got two flails up in here.
Generic shadow card that affects flails.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hexagore.
That would be sick. It's got dope art. It looks dangerous for sure. Insane.
Every time it gets you. I was gonna say sometimes it gets you too, but no, every time
it's getting somebody. Yeah. It's getting somebody. So what's interesting, can you target yourself with that weapon? Can you do that? No, you can't, I don't think. There are some cards that say target
hero
in any hero. Yeah, totally. Okay. So I was like, you could lose 2 health and gain a rune chant, but that's not how it's going to go. It's just insane that it's life, right?
Yeah.
So there must be something in her hero ability that makes it so when they lose life, something happens, right? Might be some sort of engine that way. Or if you lose a health, pay 1 as an instant, banish the top card of your deck or something like that, you know?
Ooh, I like that. That's fun.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it only costs you 1 life and it deals 1 damage, right? Which is just tit for tat. And then, right, like it's not costing you a card or a resource. Do 1 damage to each of you.
Well,
Plus
the most
creating a-
dangerous resource.
Plus, creating a rune chant token is an extra damage, right? On a split breakpoint. And rune chant tokens also function as cost reduction for a lot of Runeblade builds, and now interact with Rune Gate as well. So it's like the value on this is, I think, quite a bit higher than, you know, I initially gave it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It sits in a weird place because it does damage you. So, you know, until we've learned about anything that makes that a more appealing, you know, cost, because really it's like, okay, well, I'm going to damage myself to damage you once and maybe once more in the future. But, you know, once the value of a rune chant is pretty interesting because it does allow for a lot of different things. You know, if you have a reduce that you're going to arsenal and you get a rune chant off of this, now that becomes free. Excuse me. That becomes free, and then you're going to get another rune chant. So, you know, like those kind of effects really are hard to calculate, and blocking something for 1 sucks, as we all know from blocking Kodachis. So will this hit and really just be like a, you know, trading 1 damage for 2 damage against them? I don't know, but I like that they're playing with that space. I like that it's one-handed. I'm curious if we'll get a, you know, some kind of offhand thing for rune blades, or, you know, I guess it could make, you know, you could run lantern and keep all your cool equipment rather than having run null rune or double flail. But, you know, we got to get that go again somewhere. So
yeah, that's, I think one of the more interesting parts is that, like, this comes at the end, in theory, of a combat chain. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
it would not have for chain. So maybe it, you know what I mean? A lot of times chain shackled is weapon. So
yeah,
it's possible that it won't.
yeah. I mean, so it's also interesting that you don't have to save a resource at the end of your combat chain, was what I was getting to, is that you just have to have a health point, you know? 2 health points. You just have to have 2 health points.
yeah, minimum.
And it's really good into the new Prism, who doesn't want to freaking take damage to pop her wards.
Yeah. What's also interesting, though, is that, like, and we'll get to Rune Gate in a second. Like, we definitely want rune chants, but then why not just run Nebula Blade?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The old tried and true Nebula Blade that gets you a rune chant when you attack with it, when it hits. So yeah, that's just, my mind is just like spinning out of control.
Okay, so what goes in the offhand then? You know, because that's one thing it has over Nebula Blade. Is there anything offhanded that can?
I mean, currently no, but
You could rotten old buckler it. Oh wait, no, it's Guardian.
no, that's Guardian.
You
No,
can
there's like,
there's a fan.
You can ornate Tessin.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. So there would definitely be a new thing, right? Like a one-handed book. That would be the coolest, to have a one-handed book. You know, scroll of Dark Knight. I don't know, you know, or
You
whatever.
can really live your librarian hero.
Oh my God.
Bill.
I know. Shout out to Skirmish Season 1, where I played Librarian Viscera. You run every tome and all of the Sutcliffe's notes, and some turns you drew a bunch of cards and you played a bunch of notes and books and did some paperwork and your turn was over. It was fun as shit.
That was a really fun deck. I liked playing against that one because you're just like, do it. Sutcliffe's research notes.
On another book? Right.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Now there's even more books now, but
I know. It's so cool. Anyway, really cool weapon. We'll let's get to the Banshee. So shout out to Phantom Banshee. Shadow Runeblade attack action. Attacks for 7, defense for 3, costs 3 in the red. And it has Blood Debt, which is sweet.
classic.
And it has Rune Gate.
Rune
Whole new
Gate.
keyword. So if you control rune chance equal to or greater than Phantom Banshee's cost, you may play it from your banish zone without paying its cost, which is pretty wild. So if you have 3 rune chance, boom, Rune Gate in the Phantom Banshee for 7. And it also doesn't have go again. So, you got to figure out how to get that going to make this turn even sicker.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting. So my question to y'all is Rune Gate. So I guess Rune Gate's, it's already in there. So we'll have like 1 cost, maybe like 6 cost attacks that we'll just be able to just like Rune Gate in to attack with.
It seems plausible. Who knows? And I'm just excited that the Shadow Runeblade cares about rune chance, because rune chance is what Runeblades should be interested in my opinion. I think Briar and Chain are false Runeblades.
Preach, brother. Preach.
They were just like, I'm just going to play these generic cards and go again and swing a busted sword. But this seems interesting. I think, we still have the question of how does the card get into the banish zone?
Right.
There are some shadow cards and Shadow Runeblade cards that do put things there. But I think for now, there isn't that engine of the soul shackles. And, maybe Vincent does make soul shackles in some way, but it's just kind of like, tied to, in a different way that isn't so just consistent and busted as Chain did. But at the same time, it seems like she's going to want to make rune chant, so all those cool rune chant generating cards like Mordred Tide and etc. and Mauve Skies are going to come in. Red Mauve Skies into Phantom Banshee into flail.
Well, what's crazy is if you have multiple banshees and your first banshee hits off of your Mordred Tide, you can then banshee in the next one, because you've made 3 rune chants again.
That's true.
Which
I actually think I think this is pretty interesting design space, because it seems like obviously Runeblade should care about rune chants, right? But it's like in the game design history, that's never been the case, right? Like every new character in a class has been like wildly different. Maybe except Oldhim runs a good deal of Bravo cards, but like Lexi and Azalea, like Lexi does now maybe a little bit, but Lexi and Azalea were vastly different. Fi and Katsu, it's just like traditionally, or Briar and Pain and Viscera, it's like traditionally they've all been very different, and they make them different, kind of limit their card pools maybe, right? Like you have to build towards one thing. You can't spread it too thin, otherwise it just like doesn't function. So I'm interested to see how they'll tie in the Blood Debt kind of like card advantage as like in with the rune chants, or how they make all that work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and we'll have to see like what the distribution of Rune Gate is on these new cards. You know, it is just a new keyword. You know, like the oh my god, my brain. The token things you put on arrows, aim counters.
Aim counters.
You know, it's like that didn't end up being like the most, you know, important thing. It was just kind of like a new mechanic. So it will depend if this is like all the cards are going to be Rune Gate, or if just like, you know, there's going to be a couple sets, you know, of cards that have it. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting to me just because it feels very different. Like you're building towards having Rune Chance to be able to activate this rather than, you know, the kind of older versions of Viscerai where either you were kind of going the OTK route where you're just building and building and building Rune Chance, or you're doing like the more kind of like aggro where you're like consistently building but like also like sending them off as you make them. And so like I don't know, it feels, and that's why I like Taylor's description of like kind of the tanky armor. Vincent is like, I'm gonna block up, I'm gonna make Rune Chance, I'm gonna banish cards, and I'm gonna be able to play those. And like, you know, that's like the card advantage is like having Rune Chance and being able to have these blood deck cards that you pop off for free, allowing you to kind of block up more. But you know, again, how do you get them into your banish zone is like the biggest question. Which, you know, maybe it's like the first time you take damage on your own turn, like make a shackle or something.
Yeah,
and then
I would love it if they did not make shackles.
Yeah,
you know, and it had and we got away from that a little bit. So some cards I think are going to rise to the top, like Rune Blood Barrier might be pretty important. Read the Runes is really important now. Blessing of the Occult, potentially important. Dimensional Gateway is important. That's the one where you get to opt and then reveal and banish a card. So if it's a Runeblade card, deal 1 arcane damage. If it's a Shadow card, banish it. So then if it's a Shadow Runeblade card, do both. A card, I really love that card, and I thought it was like kind of underplayed, and I tried to make it work a lot of times. And then
Shadow Puppetry, Art of War.
Shadow Puppetry, Art of War. So there's like definitely a lot of cards that are going to slot like potentially right in to the build. But we'll see. I'm excited to maybe like have these bigger build up turns or these like peaks and valleys. That's like when I really liked playing Viscerai. That was like a lot of OG Viscerai stuff. Was like, all right, I got to block with 3 cards, play Read the Runes, Arsenal my thing for next turn, you know, to hopefully like kind of pop off and stuff. So if that's kind of going to be the play style, I'm all for it, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because even if you like is Mordred a specialization?
No.
Even if you Mordred into like Spellblade Assault, if you try to cap it off with the flail or whatever, you just pop all your Rune Chance. So
yeah. Yep.
We'll see where that balance is struck. You know, I do agree with Colin a bit. It seems like there would be some hero ability or some offhanded weapon ability or something that would like banish the bottom card of your deck, or, you know, I don't know, like something like that. You know what I mean? Just to have some steady, consistent banish zone generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I've heard multiple people talk about interacting with the bottom of the deck, which I think would be really interesting. But yeah, it seems likely that there will, if it's not Soul Shackles, there'll have to be something that gets cards in there, because just having to do it from other cards seems a little weird. But I mean, there are, you know, as he's pointed out, there's a good amount of cards that do work that way, but they all tend to block for 2 and kind of suck when they do that. You know, if you're not going to be pumping out like really powerful turns, and rather you are going to have to be blocking up and then creating Rune Chance so that you can play these Rune Gate cards for free.
Yeah.
that might not work because you would probably rather have 3 blocks and defense reactions. So
Right. Totally. Yeah, and those cards don't block. And, the other thing they're going to have to solve is that Shadow Runeblade cards on a whole suck. They're very bad, like...
Yeah, you need like superior intellect to make them good. Or like card advantage of some sort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like chain had.
Yeah,
Isaac
totally.
means
No.
mechanically, not, as a person.
That's why it took me a second. I was like, are you digging at me? Or no, you're saying you have like a large
You
number of
complimenting me?
cards in your
What's
hand.
happening?
Yeah, because Riftbind is only as good as the number of non-attack actions you play before it. You know what I mean? And if you can't also soul shackle like Chain does, then it's just like a 1 for 3 in red that you can play from Banish. And then like Bounding Demigon is unplayable unless you play another card before it. And then even then it has to be a non-attack action. And even then it's like a 0 for 4 without go again with no hit effect potentially. So also bad, So you're just like you're just having these mopey turns. So either you'll be able to get go again, or you just won't use those cards, and we'll have way more Rune Gate cards that are big old stonky chonky boys and girls.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what kind of built-in mechanics create rune chants, because right now nothing Shadow Runeblade does is rune chant related. So I'm wondering if that will be all just balanced on the existing rune chant generation, or if there will be something out. I mean, obviously, again, it's like Mob Skies is like seems like it would be a great card because it generates rune chants. It gives you that go again that you might not have naturally, but it blocks for 2. So, what is the game?
And it
plan?
doesn't totally. It doesn't have the added ability of being in a Viscerai deck where it has a hit effect and is actually going to make you 1 rune chant for your next attack that you got Gogan off of. Like in Vincent, it just says if this hits, create 3 rune chants.
Yeah.
Viscerai
is cool, man. We should play Viscerai.
How much you want to bet Vincent just runs Rosetta Thorn instead of Flail?
If it's still legal.
Yeah.
I think
we'll see.
Briar's just got to win a couple RTNs and she's gone, I think.
I think it's a lot.
Close.
It's like 30 or something, but
there'll be a lot of events. I don't know. It seems possible it'll be gone before this comes out, but obviously if it is around, you probably will just run that. And even if it not, a Nebula Blade might make more sense, It depends.
Anytime a new Runeblade comes out, I get so excited for all the fringe Runeblade shit, like Dread Scythe. Do I finally get to dust off the Dread Scythe, and this is going to be the deck for it? Runeblood Barrier going to make a comeback? Is Dimensional Crossroads going to be playable? My favorite Shadow Runeblade card, 100%. You don't know what it does? Go read it. If you play a non-attack and an attack from your banish zone, you deal an arcane damage, baby. Cost you 2. It's a yellow. Blocks 3.
Totally. I have a deep love of Hexagore, an unplayable weapon. Damn it.
Totally.
I will say, I am a little not upset. I'm not upset. Everything's fine.
Oh, God. Here it comes.
But Levia kind of got the short end of the design stick from Monarch. And now we're getting a whole Shadow Runeblade set instead of like a Shadow Brute support set. You know what I mean? Or maybe some Shadow cards that are playable in both. But the way it worked last time was like Ghostly Visit. There weren't really many, that worked well in both. So, I think Levia and that deck's fun to play.
Yeah.
I think Levia and they're probably like, well, wait, what? we never even got the first round, you know?
Yeah, totally. Not where I thought you were going, but I like that take. Yeah. Leviathan players rise up, you know?
Yeah. Alan, follow your leader, Alan, to the promised land. Titanium baubles for everyone, crayons for everyone, and you will be prosperous. I do think I'm sure there's going to be shadow brute stuff in this set. Like, it's a light and shadow set, not necessarily.
There has to be.
Like, they're just having to replace these two heroes. That living legend out, which, like, I'm excited for that in general, just to see how this is going to play out fully, because this is the first time that we've had heroes hit living legend, and now we have a set that is reintroducing that, you know, those replacements. So I'm really curious how all of that is going to be handled, as far as what support, like, is it like tailored more towards these new characters, or will there just be like a smattering of stuff and they designed it to kind of work with what's there already in the existing card pool, and what other kind of support we're going to get outside of light and dark stuff? Like, is it only going to be light and dark stuff and generics, or will we actually see full class support? I don't know if they talked about if there's like
I can't
cards for every
remember.
class.
Yeah, that would be really important.
You know, well, the product sheet is a 404 not found, so I don't know.
I think those are great questions, Colin. And if there's one thing about LSS that I can count on, is it's definitely going to be stuff we aren't expecting every time. They're 9 for 9. Right? That's how many sets have been out? Yeah, they're 9 for 9. So I would expect the 10th to also be a swoosh from downtown. So
sorry about that. I just
and then
blasted music at our audience by accident.
We can't hear that.
I'll try to.
It's okay. I thought there was an awkward pause because I made a sports reference and you both just didn't even nod along.
You did a great little foreshadowing teaser to our recording of the timestamp potion later on.
Yeah, we call that an assist.
I can't believe you brought up sports again. How embarrassing for you.
I do think it's really cool that they're releasing replacements for heroes that have LL'd. Like, we don't need a Star replacement, you know, don't read too far into this, but you know, as this game never rotates, but if too many of your favorite heroes LL, I mean, essentially the cards are right. Like, when Briar rotates, like, technically, you know, you can play Electrify in Lexi, but it's not really, that's a bad example because you don't play it in Briar either, but a good number of the cards essentially rotate out if they just never replace the heroes. And I did not expect them to replace heroes so quickly. And I think it's cool that they are, to, like, you know, again, if you love Blades and Briar's about to LL also, you know, or like, you know, just your favorite heroes were Chain and Prism and now they're both gone. You know, I'm probably very happy to see them get back around and give you something playable for your card pool.
Yeah. And for like new players too, like who may have just came in when Chain and Prism hit Living Legend and they were like excited about it, but then couldn't play. And this is their chance to dip into those classes and have some fun. And I think, you know, it seems too that the Living Legend format is taking shape as well, which will be cool to have like a alternate format for Classic Constructed that is just
also Classic Constructed.
Well, you know, I mean, you know, like that's what I mean. Like it's Classic Constructed, but like anything goes. Like it's like literally just like, let's be busted and see.
It's
see
gonna
how
be
that
awesome.
goes.
Just play Unchain with no shackles, you know. but
I am
with
unchained.
shackles. Yeah, unchained chain is
Do you
the
think
best.
so? There'll be
peak,
no
peak
bans?
flesh and blood.
No bans either in Living Legend.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
confirmed by James
Yeah.
White.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
At least
gonna
to
be rad.
start. Until it starts becoming an important format.
know.
And they have to do it.
I don't know if
Yeah.
it will be like great because it's like it sounds
So fun.
wild, but then like in practice it could be that one of these LL'd heroes is actually the like by far more busted with all of the card pool, you know?
Well, we can
And then
finally
it just
find
becomes
out.
like a
That'd be fun.
all right.
It's gonna be a non-competitive format. You know what I mean?
Stubby's Phi, maybe. You know?
That would be
not
really
LL.
funny if the Living Legend
it's-
format like is open to all heroes, nothing's banned, and then new heroes with banned cards are better than the Living Legend heroes. It's like
I assumed you could play non-Living Legend heroes in that format. Why not?
It's confirmed. It's only heroes that have living legend.
Oh, that was confirmed.
Yeah, that's why they're waiting for the 4th hero. So there's like, you know, that's a better number. There's 4 decks to
And
play rather
fifth,
than just 3.
likely. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 5th and 6th. Yeah,
we're waiting for them all to Living Legend. That's what we're doing.
that's when I'll play Flesh and Blood again.
I found the product sheet and it does not mention support for all classes, which some other expansion sets have said, I think, in the product sheet. It just talks about light and dark. So, but I'm going to say Shadow Brute's in there.
Let's go.
She's getting one card
This is
that's
our
not
reaction.
playable. A flail reaction. Come on.
They just, yeah. That would
6
be cool.
power attack that costs 3 and has 3 blood debt.
Yeah. A flail
Doesn't
reaction
block.
that does twice as much damage to you, but nothing to your opponent.
doubles the health loss you would have lost this
Yeah,
turn.
totally.
If it hits,
if
it kills them, but if it doesn't, you die. You're just like,
Yeah, exactly.
regicide.
Perfect.
Flail regicide.
Dying just like the end of this podcast / YouTube show. Thank you, everybody, because Isaac is slowly descending into the depths, it looks like. So we better find him some soul and some light before we get out of here. Another
Nah, he'll be
visual
fine.
gag. Yeah, that's true. He grew his beard back, so he's at full strength now. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching. Get in touch with us on Twitter, the YouTube comments, email. All of that stuff is in the description below. And yeah, we just love everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening and being a part of our weird family we have. Great. Appreciate it a lot.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Great.
Bye.
Goodbye now.
Bye. It's great. Great.
Really great.
It's great.
You dorks.
Good. Great.
James White also said we could pronounce things however the fuck we want. So
That's
Doesn't
so
stop people
true.
from shaming you in the chat for saying it how they don't want you to.
I mean, that's what we're here for. It brings back listeners when you say Eastlander. So they're like, "Is he gonna say it again?" Fuck, he said it again.
That motherfucker.
Fuck this guy. Yeah.
I'm gonna break this fucking keyboard.